Welcome to the Internet of Things with Chuck Martin. I'm happy to say I've got with me today Ajay Yadav, the co-founder of Simplified. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chuck.
So you're involved in a big way in generative AI. Can you just start by talking about what is generative AI?
In a simple way to put it, is the ability to create any sort of content. You're looking at like text or images, videos, audio, anything that you're using on a day-to-day basis is now being created by AI instead of human beings.
So where did this come from?
AI has been around for a long time, right? But I think sometimes I think about like a simple example when you go to Google and you're typing an email response, right? And it shows you like recommends you something to say, right? So it's been around in that sort of form, but recently a company named OpenAI has been the ones who are leading at the forefront of developing a technology or language model, I'll say GPT-3, the oldest model that they have and one of the best ones. And now ChatGPT. I'm sure people have heard about ChatGPT is going like crazy. But yes, that's the model that you can use to sort of like generate all sorts of content.
So ChatGPT is kind of it's the buzz of the day, if you will, and
It
everybody's
is,
talking
it
about
is.
it, playing with it. Is that something that's going to pass as a fad?
Not actually. It's crazy. I think one of the things that surprised me about overall the technology, of course, is like mind blowing, but about ChatGPT was, when you look at the usage numbers for compare like Facebook, Google, Instagram, all these companies, right, that launched, and they grew all pretty quickly to hundreds of millions of users, but they grew in a certain time frame, and that can have been like maybe let's say a year up to a couple of years, maybe months. ChatGPT did all of this stuff, I think, in a matter of I'd say weeks and less than a few months. And so it's the fastest ever growing sort of like the usage we have seen on any site. And regarding like it's AI, right? So you don't even understand what the heck is it supposed to do, but people are so curious to try it out that it just blew up. And no, it's not a fad.
So where does it go from here? Does it just keep getting better?
I think it keeps getting better. They've been working on it for a long time, and I think I guess the basic example to discuss is, when you look at if you go to ChatGPT and you say, hey, you know what, write me an email introducing me and some colleague and some other company for XYZ. It's like let's say like a sales email, right? It gives you like a human readable response. It might not be exactly what you're looking for, and you can get there with it as well, but it's as close as you can imagine that, wow, it's like I can understand this, and some human wrote this piece of content. So that's like reducing your time that you spend on these things, I think, by 90%. So it's just a starting point, and we're going to see content from text. I think we're seeing images now. I think video is coming fairly soon, and it's already happening. I think we're going to look at audio, like you see one of those like avatars and they're talking, and this audio seems like robotic, right? Imagine now that sounds like almost like a real human being, and even that avatar actually looks like a real human being. So I think this is just a starting point of it, but there's so much more it can do, I think, in the next decade. And I think a simple example that I think a lot about is, like the Iron Man movie, and you have Jarvis in that movie, and that
Right.
AI is sort of like you just talk about it. You talk to the bot, right? Or assistant or AI, whatever you call it. And it would do anything for you from finding information to getting things done for you. I think that's what the next decade would be. Look at like general AI that can work with humans to make their lives easier.
So hypothetically, in the future, if I was going to do a podcast with Ajay, could I just get one of these this next generation of generative AI and say, okay, Ajay, what would Ajay say if I asked him this? And then it would actually answer correctly.
It will, based on the past, of course, the data, right? Whatever you're feeding it to it, yes. And another maybe an example that I think about, like a very basic one, is imagine like how you travel and you have these specific preferences, right? And sometimes people prefer really like the aisle seat if I'm going for this long of a flight or window seat if I'm just flying maybe like a shorter flight, whatever that preference is, right? Certain airline, climate, and hotel. Like imagine the complexity of that one trip you're trying to take. And right now you go to these sites and you find the best details and maybe you have assistants, maybe you hire a company to do that stuff, right? Imagine a world where you have this assistant and you tell this assistant, hey, you know me because you're my sort of like working with me, let's say my assistant. And I say, hey, book me a trip to, let's say, Rome. And AI would do it for you. So it will go and talk to everyone from the hotel booking to the flight to getting the right seat. It's confirmed all of this beforehand before even like puts the payment, has your payment information, does all of this, and the trip is planned for you. Beyond that is like an itinerary that planned by AI and tells you exactly what to do, when to do it, book the cab. All of that can be done, I think, in the next decade to make that experience really awesome for you.
So what happens when we've got an environment where everything can be, or not everything, but most things can be created kind of digitally and by technology? Where do humans fit in all of that?
We've had, I think, a couple of like these revolutions, right? If you look at the industrial one or even agricultural one, right? And we sort of don't think about technology in the same way because we're like living it, right? Like it's happening as we kind of like even now sometimes realizing it's happening because we're living the technology as we speak on a day-to-day basis, and it's evolving around and with us. So you don't really see it that way, but it's happened before. And I think if you free up that time, like imagine a simple example, you go through your inbox every day, email, and you respond to all these people and you spend like 3, 4 hours a day. Question would be, what if I gave you back those 3 or 4 hours back? What would you do with it? Would you spend that time on being more creative and do things that you always wanted to do? Would you spend that time to travel or spend time with your family? And I think those things, so you're getting the time back to focus on things that humans can do to innovate and do more, add more value instead of that sort of day to day that is not adding value, but you still have to do it because you just have to do it.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're talking about is basically automating a lot of tasks, but technology, typically people in the workplace fear new technology because they think it's going to replace them, whether it's robotics or AI or whatever. Um, how does the industry get over that human fear?
There's a lot of definitely a lot of chatter happening in the industry. It's the biggest question that people are asking. Does AI replace you? And then there's the other side. There's always going to be good and bad. And I think as long as the good outweighs the bad, I mean, I think of a big support of that technology. I think in this case is you can get trained to use AI and do more things actually. We look at like small businesses that doesn't have the funding or resources to hire more people to grow their businesses. But now imagine you can hire this AI assistant for fairly cheap or affordable, and now you can actually get more business that's much better, on point, delivered on time, and you actually get to make more money. So I think if you work with AI, it's like you can get more done instead of thinking about I get replaced. Let's actually get ahead and train ourselves first before other people do. So you're kind of ahead of the game and you can do more with less.
So your company is dealing with generative AI. When you go to the market, when you're talking to someone in a business and they don't really understand it, what are they asking about? What are they looking for?
I think most questions we get at Simplified is like, what are the possibilities? Like, can I do this and can I do that? And examples of like, hey, can I write long form content? Let's say a piece of blog. Now, can I convert that blog into short form content? Like, can I take pieces and bits of it? Like, can AI help me? The blog that AI has written and I have edited and made it better, let's say as an example, can you extract information that's relevant for my audience? And can you turn that into, let's say, an audio like a podcast style, or maybe like a video actually? Or can you write content for social media for me? Can I actually do more than just writing blog or text, sales copy, ad copy, and all this stuff? What else can I do? There's a lot of like curiosity around AI when people come to us, like what's really possible, and we just show them what they do today and how this can be done better. And of course, there's more coming for you. I think I've been, of course, reading and watching and listening to a lot of stuff what's happening in the AI. And there's a good example that someone mentioned that imagine now if you're making a video on social media and you're thinking about a script. So let's say there's a tool, AI can actually write the video script for you. Now there's another company that can take that scripting and put it into this sort of avatar style and this robotic voice actually. And then you get that video made. So now you actually have a video, not of you, but someone else. That's like engaging video and has a script and looks amazing. Now there's another tool that's powered by AI and that says, hey, you know what? Let me actually get the avatar to as looking close to you as I can, and let me actually put the voice as well, your voice actually. And now it's as close as you can imagine. So I now can actually create content that is for education or whatever purposes, and I can start putting it online that I could never do before, or procrastination and whatever that is. So you got to do things that you were waiting to do all this time, just using the technology actually. So it's the possibilities what people are questioning what can be done.
So some of this content that, like, say, a chat GPT is getting, it goes on the net and it pulls information, and not all of it is always accurate. How does that issue get resolved over time?
This is I think the big one for AI, because I don't think that AI has been trained to sort of like fact check everything, and that's why it's not being marketed yet. That hey, this is like if it writes something, that's the final version of it. I think if it gives you something, I think this generative AI, the first stage of it, if you understand it, I think the goal here is to sound like a human being, very conversational, filled with emotions. And if you read that piece of content or see an art or see a video or audio file, it should look like, wow, it resonates with me. And I think it's done by another human being. So I can connect with it, right? I think that's the stage where generative AI is. I don't believe it's at a stage where it can fact check, right? I think if you ask them, hey, give me like information about even myself, it would make up stuff about me based on whatever it knows about me, but it won't like fact check and say, hey, I went to school from this year to this year, here. I had a job from here to here, right? I made this much money, or whatever that is. I contributed to these projects, because it has no way to lock in that information yet. And I think that's the next stage on how do we go from like sounding like human being to fact checking, right? And getting the information absolutely correct. And I think that's coming in, I think 5+ years for that thing to happen.
So do you think that would be incorporated in something like a chat GPT, or that'll be a separate add-on later that somebody else invents?
I think it'd be a part of any AI. I mean, ChatGPT is a model. That's the latest one that OpenAI is running. But let's say GPT-3 is an older model that every other AI company is using, including Simplified. And when this is released, I think it will be built inside the technology, no matter what it's called. It might be called, I don't know, GPT-5 or 7 in the next couple of years, the latest model. And imagine that's plugged into thousands of companies that are building their own workflow and solutions on top of this AI. So it would be like available to all of it. But today, there are companies who are trying to solve this as an add-on. So like you can write something and they will do the fact check for you and start to insert information and correct it for you.
So where do you see right now is the fail potential? Because sometimes when something like an autonomous cars, when one autonomous car crashes, it's a really big deal, even though thousands of other cars crash every day. Technology is kind of the same way. It's like airplane crashes. Like if is there a big fail that would really rock the market?
I think it's highly centralized. And what I mean by that, not in terms of like control. And I think AI needs that control, because if you think about the good and the bad, right? AI can also be used in multiple ways. So I think it's very controlled in the sense of like who gets to use it, how do they use it? If there's ever something happens, you can revoke the access and what all this kind of good stuff. And what that also means though is API based. So imagine every single company is powered by this one or two or few technology, because now Google is working on their own version of it. Facebook has been working on generative AI style, technology as well. So I think when the whole system goes down for any reason, I mean, we saw recently that I don't know if you noticed that Microsoft apps were down actually, like 2 days ago, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, that's a massive event. You're relying on Microsoft apps for so many things. If Microsoft can go down even for like 15 minutes, and that impacts millions and millions of people, the same applies to any technology, and including this one. So something happens, and if you're fully reliant on it, right, like fully dependent on this technology, when it's not there yet, I think it can cause huge damage and losses. I think like Teslas always go crazy and haywire. There's so many videos about Tesla acting crazy. Like
Right.
people cannot get into their cars. Like I saw a friend of mine posted. So all those risks are there for sure, and it's the early stages of it.
So you think that it basically just because it's early stage?
Yes, it's because early stage, they're trying to figure it out. And I think if you look at the scale of how people are using, in this example, like ChatGPT, right? I don't think that no one imagined that, SimilarWeb actually had a data around ChatGPT that they had 300 million users like use the technology in the first month actually. So if you look at it, I think, and that data is like inflated by I think 2x or 2.5x, but let's say 100 million people. I don't think anyone imagined that you'd be using it like that much. And there would be so much curiosity around AI in general. So I think it's the early stages and they're looking at it, they're learning from what's happening, and I think definitely going to be improving as we go.
So for business, what do you see for generative AI? What do you see as the biggest opportunities coming down the road?
Any business actually, I think a lot of businesses spend a ton of time on ideation. It's like the basic bare bones I can tell you. If you think of like an brief or like, hey, I have an idea and how do I like get started on the idea? People spend a ton of time on that. That's like gone. If you tell the AI to give you ideas, it's like instant, like milliseconds, and you have a bunch of ideas. And you go from there to even creating the first set of mockups, designs, videos, text, whatever that is. So I think it helps you get more clients, make more money, and I think grow that business that was struggling before, kind of to like take on that scale. And you can do that now in much more affordable way.
So in an organization, where does this fall? Like when you're dealing with a company, are you dealing with the IT department, the management of financial services? Where does it fall in the company?
This is the first technology that we have all seen that sort of impacts on like a day-to-day basis almost everyone. Because you had bits and pieces of this technology, I think, that have been used that no one notices, like the Google example, Gmail example. But this one impacts everyone. So a couple of examples. If anyone in the organization, from like bottom to like customer support, imagine you're like responding to all these reviews that people talk about, right? Now you can give that review to someone, AI, and we give you a perfect response back. You make a couple of changes, same review that took you maybe 3 minutes now takes you like 30 seconds. You can respond to more customers. They're actually happier that the company is on top of it, and you care about your customers. And then it can go up to as like senior high level executives that are from email proposals, responding back to sales, business, whatever that looks like. So you can do all of that from marketing to publishing content on various social media channels. That has been challenging for a lot of departments in marketing because you need bigger teams. You got to sort of cater to all the social media from blogging to Facebook, the video world, and now Q&A sites. There's just so much you can do, and you don't have the resources to do it. So you kind of do that as well. And then there's performance teams like creating ad copies to a lot of the creatives to see which one works for you, and while saving money. So I think anyone in the organization from the bottom to the top actually can use a version of AI in whatever they do on a day-to-day basis.
Love it. Finally, some end-to-end technology that can be used in the enterprise. Thank you so much, Ajay. And thank you all for listening to the Voices of the Internet of Things.
Thank you, Chuck.